I love it when bands use big video walls with background visuals synced to their music. You've probably seen DJs do this, but big power metal bands like Sabaton and Powerwolf have added video to their stage dressing as well, and I just love it. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably noticed that a number of the mid-sized clubs you've been playing have at the very least a projector, but surely it's got to take a team of people to add that sort of video wall visuals to your show, right?
And don't call me Shirley.
You know what channel you're watching. Of course I DIY'd this. By the end of this video, you're going to have a fully automated video rig for your band that also lets you control your tracks, click, digital instruments, and more wirelessly from any phone or tablet with digital set lists, live lyrics, chord charts, a visual metronome, and more. Okay, there was a couple of problems I needed to solve for my band, and the solution I found ended up fixing all of them. Adding a video wall in the background ended up being a nice extra cherry on top. So here are my problems. I needed to fix our click, put our backing tracks in stereo, have a plan for situations where we might be missing our bassist, more on that later, and be able to start a song at a certain section of the song, for example, start at chorus number 2 for practice purposes. Oh, and I also wanted to add a cool-ass video wall. First, let's talk about the click. So we play to a click because it makes our show tighter, and also because some of our songs have orchestral backing tracks. Originally, we were using one of those Roland drum pads to start and stop the clicks and tracks. We would upload one wave file with our backing tracks, one wave file with our click, and then link them so that they started at the same time. This worked, but it presented a number of aggravating problems. First, for songs that didn't have tracks, we used the built-in click on the Roland pad, but the volume would be inconsistent because, we might bump the knob in the middle of the set. Also, the songs that had tracks had a completely different style of click because I was exporting it from my recording software. And we made these files as we needed them over the course of multiple years, so there was no consistency in volume levels. Some tracks could be a little quieter, some clicks could be too loud, and to fix that meant I had to go back into my recording software and export new files, which we would then need to upload via a FAT32 formatted USB stick. It was kind of a mess. We also couldn't start at a particular section of the song because the pad only understood start and stop. So if we wanted to practice, say, the pre-chorus of a song that had backing tracks, we'd have to practice it without the tracks. If we wanted to practice a song with a tempo change, we would have to practice the entire song. The next problem was that our tracks were in mono. Not the end of the world, but stereo just sounds better. Again, we were limited by our hardware. We didn't have the outputs on the Roland to send a stereo track at the same time as our click. The final problem was the possibility of missing our bassist for some shows. Our bassist is an extremely talented, internationally recognized, award-winning landscape photographer, and he and his wife wanted to do more long-haul camping and photo trips. Not a problem, we can schedule tours around that. But what happens if Blind Guardian asks us to open for them in Chicago last minute and he's unreachable in the middle of the Ozarks? We needed a solution. This 2U rig right here solves all of these problems and allows us to add fully synced video to our show. Not only that, but we now have an easy-to-change, fully digital set list with a visual metronome, with lyrics, with chord charts, and jumpable sections that anyone in the band can control on a tablet or on their phone. And all of this is possible with a $150 piece of software called AbleSet. Okay, full disclosure, it's not only $150 to build this. You are going to need some additional software and hardware to make this thing run. Building this exact rig was not super cheap, but I will show you alternative ways which are either free or cheaper to get the same thing done. Secondly, we're just going to scrape the surface on a lot of the software running on this rig. If you want to know way more and go way more in depth on this, please check out my friend Rashab's course on Ableton Live Playback Engineering. I learned how to do all of this by watching his course and also by touring with him in the Sonic Symphony. He is an amazing guy, and I can't say enough good things about his course. I've linked it in the description below. It is not expensive. Go pick it up. Okay, let's get into this. First up, hardware. There are 3 basic pieces of hardware that you will need to put together this rig. A computer with HDMI out, an audio interface like this Focusrite Scarlett here, and a router. The computer is going to run all the audio and video, and the interface is going to give you all the outputs to send that audio where you need it to go. For the computer, you can go Mac or Windows. It doesn't matter. I'm more comfortable with Windows, so I picked up a Dell laptop with a built-in HDMI port on the side. If you're using a Mac, you'll have to pick up a dongle in order to send HDMI out to your projector. For the interface, you want to choose something that has enough audio out or aux out jacks on the back. I happen to inherit this older Scarlett 18920, which has way more outputs than I will ever need. But for general purposes, you want to have at least 3 outputs, 2 for your stereo track and 1 for your click. If you're going to add in extra instruments like bass tracks, guitar tracks, etc., just make sure you have an interface big enough. This 18920 typically retails for about $500. Finally, the router. This is to connect the computer running your tracks to your tablets or phones so you can use your digital set list. If you're not playing giant stadiums, it doesn't need to be anything huge. I got this small USB-C powered router for like $30, mostly because it fits into the rack easily. Speaking of which, SKB makes this great 2U rack with room for a laptop on top. They're technically not sponsoring us anymore because they shut down their sponsorship program, but they used to, and I do like the products. Okay, the hardware part is out of the way, so let's talk software. The main brain behind all of this is a piece of software called AbleSet. Basically, it runs on top of Ableton Live to control playback and do all sorts of other stuff. It's $150, but for all the stuff it does, the price tag is well worth it. Before we get into video and lyrics and set lists, we're going to start with the basics, setting up our tracks and our click. To do this, I'm going to first install Ableton Live. If you're unfamiliar, this is a digital audio workstation, or DAW, that's specifically designed for live playback. At the time of recording, you'll need either version 11 or 12 of the Ableton Live suite, which retails for about $750. Not super cheap, but again, later in this video, I'll go into other free alternatives. Once Ableton Live is installed, we can install AbleSet. AbleSet will automatically start with your computer and it works in the background, so once it's installed, you shouldn't need to do much else. As an aside, I'm not going to go into finite detail on how to set up and use Ableton Live. There are a bunch of really great in-depth tutorials out there that cover things like setting up your audio interface, routing tracks, adding effects, and the like. The video is already long enough as it is, and I am not an Ableton expert. If you want finite detail, again, please check out Rashab's course I have linked below. To get your tracks and click going, we're going to open up Ableton and start a new project. I'm going to remove all the default tracks and the default return tracks, so we've got an empty project. Create 2 MIDI tracks, one called Sections and one called Click. We're going to create another MIDI track for the AbleSet plugin. I've called mine Max for Live, and I would add the AbleSet plugin to it, but I don't have it installed on this computer right now. You will see it under Max for Live and AbleSet. Once that's done, AbleSet should be able to control your playback. Okay, back to your click track. Let's add a percussion device to your track to produce the click sounds. You can find this under Instruments, Impulse, Percussion 1. Once this is on your track, you can switch over to Arrangement View and create a new MIDI clip by double-clicking. Find the instrument that works best for your preferred click sound. So in this case, I like the wood clave and the block, and create 4 beats. Once that's done, you can click and drag the clip to extend it out to the length of your song. Voila, you have a click. Let's move back to the session view because we need to send this click out somewhere other than the main outs. So let's create a return track and set that send to external out. You can pick whatever output you want. I'm going to pick output 1 here for the click. Now you can see this return track is labeled A at the top. And now we have an A knob on all of our MIDI and audio tracks. I'm going to send the click to this return track by turning the A knob on the click all the way up. We can do something similar with our backing tracks. I'm making a new track here, and I'm also going to make a new return track called Tracks and Tracks Out. You'll see that now we have a B knob send as well, because Tracks Out is B. Let's send the tracks out to return outputs 5 and 6, and then turn the B knob up on our backing tracks to send the audio there.
Now we have to set our tempo. Click on the automation up in the upper right there, go to your master track and change it to song tempo. Now you want to start the song tempo about where the song starts. I don't really like that the click track starts at the very beginning here, kind of a thing for me. So I'm going to move that over. Click at the beginning of our song to make a point, and then edit that value. In our case, the song I'm doing is 176 beats per minute. So we've got that in there now. Now that we have the actual tempo working, and it's correct, I'm hearing it here, we're going to drop in our tracks for the backing tracks. I have them here on my Google Drive, so I'm just going to take this backing track here and just click and drag it onto the track that we've created that's called tracks. When the audio comes in, it's going to automatically warp it to try to fit it to your specified tempo, but we already fit this track to the tempo anyway when we created it, so we don't have to worry about that. So make sure you uncheck the warp down in the bottom. You might need to do a little bit of manual moving around to make sure this starts exactly where you want it to go, but now you have your click going to one output and your tracks going to the other output. So your click is going to A and your tracks are going to B. Next, we need to add a locator to the beginning of our song so that AbleSet knows where the song starts. In this case, I'm just right-clicking, adding a locator, calling it Power of Evil. And then at the very end of the song, I'm also going to add a locator that just says stop. And what that'll do is that will tell AbleSet and Ableton to just stop the playback until we press the next button. Finally, let's use the sections MIDI track to create sections for our song. So to do this, double-click and create a new MIDI clip, and then just rename it to the part of the song that the MIDI clip represents. So in this case, I'm going to rename this one to Intro, and I'll drag it out to as long as the intro goes for here, which I can figure out using my tracks. When you get to the next part, double-click and create a new MIDI clip, and then simply rename it to what the next part of the song is. If you use two greater than symbols right before the name of the song, that means that AbleSet will be able to jump to it. So you'll be able to, for instance, press verse, and it'll jump to verse.
Obviously, the outputs listed in Ableton correspond to the actual physical outputs on the back of your device. To make things easier for me, I bought a number of these right-angle quarter-inch connectors that go to female quarter-inch plugs. That way, when I get to the venue, I just have to take a quarter-inch male to XLR cable, plug it into the corresponding output, and send it where I need it to go. For example, I'll plug this into the quarter-inch click, and then I'll send the click to the input on my in-ear mixer.
To give you a better idea of how this will all look when it's done, this is the actual Ableton Live session that we use when Lords of the Trident plays. You'll see at the top we've got the name of the song, we've got all of the sections in there, and we've got a bunch of different tracks. We've got one called Resolume, which we'll talk about later. The backing tracks are there. The bass is right beneath it, so this is the bass track. And then at the very beginning, you'll see the song name and the count off. The song name is just me speaking into a microphone saying these tower walls, so it appears in our ears. This goes to the same place that the click goes. The count in is an automatic machine voice going 1, 2, 3, 4. Rashab talks about this in his course. It's something you can download as well. And then of course we have a MIDI track going to Resolume, which again we will talk about later to control the video. If I expand out, you can see all of the songs that we have here. It's a very, very long track. If I open up AbleSet and I click on one of these songs, you can see that it starts playing at that particular spot. So let me zoom back in here to these tower walls. You'll see after I clicked it, it is of course beginning to play.
Once you have multiple songs with starts and stops set up in your Ableton session, the next step is to get AbleSet up and running on your tablet or phone. First, connect the computer to the router. I'd recommend a hardwired connection if you can. Open up the AbleSet menu down in the taskbar. You'll see a remote IP address listed. To use AbleSet on your phone or tablet, first connect your device to the Wi-Fi on your router. Obviously, since the router is only connected to the computer and not like the internet at large, your device is probably going to complain about no internet after connecting to the Wi-Fi. Ignore that. Open up the web browser of your choice on your device and type in AbleSet's remote IP address in the address bar. Boom, you are now connected and you can start and stop songs on your device. AbleSet allows you to do so much more than just set list. In the performance mode, you can turn on a visual metronome. You can add in karaoke style lyrics or chord patterns for guitars. You can create different views for different instruments too. For example, you could have a guitar view with the chords of the song or a vocal view with lyrics. You can also use the sections you've created in Ableton to jump around to different parts of the song for practice. There's a lot more features that makes this thing super powerful, so go check out the AbleSet documentation for all the cool things you can do with it. Thanks to this new rig, all my problems are now solved. I've got my tracks in stereo, my click is consistent and easy to edit on the fly. We can start and stop anywhere in a song during practice, and we've got bass tracks prepped in case our bassist can't make it. Now, let's add some video. There are a million different ways to make cool backing videos for your band, so use whatever method works best for you. I made most of our backing videos in Adobe After Effects, but again, use whatever floats your boat. Just sync these videos to your song, export them in 1080p, and you're ready to roll. Once you have these videos ready to go, there are a few different ways of triggering them to play. First off, Ableton Live actually allows you to drop video files as tracks inside of your project. When you do that, a separate video window will appear, which you can drag onto the second screen. In this case, your projector or gigantic TV in your basement, and double-click to make it full screen. I think this works better if you're using a Mac. On the Windows side, I couldn't get the videos to expand to fill up the entire screen no matter what I did. Also, we had planned on using a looping video at the end of each song so that I could chat with the audience if I wanted. If I did this inside of Ableton, I would have to add that video file after each and every song in the session, which would get kind of tedious. The more complicated but way better way to play these videos is to use software specifically designed for live show playback, software called Resolume. Resolume is a super powerful video software used by live video playback engineers that allows you to do all sorts of crazy blending and effects and stretching, etc., etc. The way that I'm using it is extremely basic, but the reason that I like it is because it's specifically designed for this type of task, playing video during live performances. Much like Ableton Live, it's designed for this environment, so it's extremely stable. That stability doesn't come cheap, however, as a license is about $350, but in my opinion, it is the best way to go. Once you have Resolume installed, you can add your videos to the playback queue at the top of the program. Instead of manually clicking on the videos to start playback, like so, we're going to start and stop these videos via MIDI. Inside of Resolume, you can assign a MIDI note to each video to trigger playback. And we're going to use that Ableton session that we already have set up to send out that MIDI note. In a perfect world, we'd have one computer for video and one computer for playback. But I am not made of money or trailer space. In order to make this work, we need to send a MIDI signal out of Ableton and into Resolume. Since both programs, Ableton and Resolume, are running on the same computer at the same time, we just can't connect like a physical MIDI cable and run the signal through that because they're on the same computer at the same time. We need a virtual MIDI cable so that Ableton can send the note out and Resolume can listen for that note to start the playback. If you're on a Mac, your machine already has the capabilities to do this. Just do a Google search for virtual MIDI device Mac and follow the instructions to set up the virtual MIDI connection using your IAC driver. If you are on Windows like me, you will have to install a separate program called Loop MIDI to make this connection, but don't worry, it's free and I've linked it down below. Once you have this installed and set up, make sure that you've assigned a MIDI note value to each one of your videos inside of Resolume. Inside of the settings of Resolume, make sure that your virtual MIDI device appears and is listening for signals. Now, back inside of Ableton, you want to create a new MIDI track and select your virtual MIDI device as your output. I've created a track here called Resolume that's sending out to the virtual Loop MIDI device. At the beginning of a song, I have a small MIDI clip that's playing one note, the specific note that will trigger the video corresponding to this song. And at the very end of the song, I have one more MIDI note that will trigger our looping logo video. So now, when I boot up the laptop, I open Ableton and Resolume. I select the projector, or in this case, our giant TV, as the video output window. When I start a song through AbleSet on our tablet, it plays that MIDI note, and Resolume starts playing the video. When the song is over, before it reaches the stop marker in AbleSet, it will play the other MIDI note to trigger our looping 3D logo. Rinse and repeat for every song, and you now have a full video show, tracks, click, song cues, lyrics, chords, and a visual metronome running on one small laptop. Okay, yes, very cool, Ty, but also very expensive. Assuming you already have a laptop and an interface that's still like $1,200 in software alone, I get it, it's not for everyone. And I did promise a cheaper alternative. If you're not interested in being able to trigger things wirelessly or having lyrics or chords, or etc. on a tablet, and you just want the tracks and click and video, you can do all of this in Reaper. Reaper is a digital audio workstation just like Ableton Live, and it also has built-in video capabilities. Just like our non-Resolume example in Ableton, you can drag a video file onto a track, and it will play in a separate window. Drag that window to your projector, and you're ready to go. The only downside is that you can't use AbleSet with Reaper. It's Ableton Live only. If you use Reaper, you'll have to find another way to trigger each song to start. I hope this video inspired you to try out some live video for your band. Please subscribe, and if you want to help support the channel, the band, and get some awesome music in return, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Lords of the Trident. We will see you on the road. Until then, stay metal.